And in 2022, winning some of the biggest races in the world, Ironmans, PTO US Open. Then I got suspended for doping. I'm Collin Chartier. I am currently a breathwork coach, also do residential real estate. In my background, I spent 8 years being a professional triathlete, and full-time job, I was 11th ranked in the world back in 2023, and in 2022, winning some of the biggest races in the world, Ironmans, PTO US Open. Then I got suspended for doping. So that's why I'm here. Now a breathwork coach, now working on wellness and helping other people with their own personal transformations, redemption stories, and performing or improving their performance.
I'm Charlotte Burgin. I am a mental performance coach. I've been a mental performance coach for the last 3.5 years. My background is actually in kinesiology and sports medicine. And I pivoted after a big injury. I broke my back a couple of years ago, and that changed the face of my life and kind of the way that I was moving through the world. And through that journey, I kind of picked up mental performance and I learned a lot about it. And through visualization and mental performance work, I did what I was told I would never do, and I walked again. And so now I teach athletes and high performers to do the same, no matter what scale it's at, to reach their goals, improve their confidence, etc., etc. We can get more into that later.
Hey, let's talk about mental performance.
Yeah.
And in the context of being an athlete, and we can use myself as an example.
Perfect.
Maybe I had developed this pre-race plan. So before every race, usually like the night before, I'd just go into my phone on a document, and I had developed some structure for each race so that I would know the course and then be mentally prepared. So there was some kind of mental component there, even though I never formally worked with anyone during those competitions. Later in my career I did, but these ones I have pulled up examples, and maybe you can speak to your expertise as a mental performance coach,
sure.
What I was maybe doing right or wrong. I don't know, because I just did it myself.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then we can get into breathwork and how that relates to performance and quality of life, whatever questions we want to discuss.
Sounds great. Perfect.
All right, well, let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's.
We will go right into Ironman South Africa 2022, March 4th. This is my pre-race document.
Okay.
So title of the race, and then I go to the event date. Right below it, I do start time. So I know I'm trying to make sure my body knows exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like event date, 6:30 a.m., like the start time. My start number is number 7. The weather forecast, winds 18 to 30 miles per hour, rain possible, 64 to 74 Fahrenheit.
Okay. And how long before the race did you create the plan?
This was, I think, the night before.
Okay. Interesting.
Any comments on that?
Yeah. Specifically around races, there's a lot of decision fatigue, lots of things to organize and things to do. So particularly for bigger races like this, where you know you've got to get up early and you know you've got to go kind of out straight. Yes, it's important to kind of look at the weather maybe the night before, but certain things you want to have organized up to 3 weeks before. You want your car packed, you want everything ready in terms of your race fuel, your water, etc., so that on race day or even before race day, all you need to focus on is getting out there and performing. So something like for example, the weather kind of has to be the night before because that's changeable. Whereas if you're looking at the start time, that's something that you want to know weeks in advance so you can start sleeping and waking according to that time so you can train at that time.
I mean, as an athlete, I think that's really difficult because
yes,
I think I was training in Ecuador, and then I traveled to the U.S., and then I traveled to Africa. Like, time zones are different.
Yes.
But I see, yeah, I could have looked to see what time it started.
Mm-hmm. So where was this race?
This was in Port Elizabeth.
Okay.
I think it was like an hour and a half flight from Cape Town.
Okay. And how long before the race did you get there?
I actually did quite well. I think I was there like a week before.
Yeah. So even if you get there the week before, you get on that time schedule, that sleep schedule, straight away. Yeah, you're right. 3 weeks can be quite tricky if it's in like, if you're in the US and you're competing in the US, that's a lot easier. If it's worldwide, then yes, it's kind of you go with the most ideal option in the unideal situation.
All right. And then this part is generally repeated from most of my pre-races documents, because it comes from a book called Elite Minds, Dr. Stan Beecham.
It's a great book.
That was kind of like my mental performance coach, that book. So I pulled some quotes from it. Happiness, like success, you have to let it happen by not caring about it.
Yes, absolutely. So true.
And I feel like that I really put down there because I cared so much about winning and success that this was like, oh, I have to like not care. And it's really hard not to care because my entire life is around caring about winning.
When you cared about winning, did you focus on the success or focus on avoiding not getting the success? Does that make sense?
I think I would focus on success every day.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I be my best today? How can I win? And even this talks about like every day waking up, like programming your mind. I'm doing this so I can win the day and winning the race.
Okay, great.
But then it doesn't make any sense because she's like, oh, then you just don't care about it. So it's hard because it's like a paradox. Everything you have to do is about winning. And then at the end of the day, you have to be like, okay, now I don't care about it.
Yeah, but I guess you can look at that two ways, right? You can look at it as in winning the day and winning being achieving to the best of your ability in the circumstances that you have, but letting go of the outcome.
Yeah.
So if you focus on winning as the process and the outcome as the thing, the success, the winning the race, whatever, when you let go of that as an outcome and focus on achieving right now and the thing you're doing right now, making your plan, sticking to your plan, the success either comes or it doesn't, but you win regardless.
Yeah, that was the big takeaway from that book for me. It was like trying to go back to the process. I have here is think about the challenge to overcome, a mission. It is then we are fully alive.
Okay.
So it was talking about like we need to have something that's challenging us to overcome instead of already arriving at success.
Did you use these as phrases you said to yourself before the race, during the race, after the race?
Before the race.
Okay. Did you use them during the race at all?
I don't use anything during the race. I don't think I think about, because I'll show you later on. It's all about the process.
Okay.
So this just kind of gets my mind into the right framework.
And these were direct quotes from the book, right?
Yes.
You never wrote one for yourself based on your own why?
I have a few here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just the first part. And then another one was those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how.
Yeah.
And then I went and I put out like, okay, here was the challenge for me. To come to the run, the marathon, in the front group and to run to my potential. Okay. Then I repeated to run to my potential, to run my best, never giving up.
Okay.
So it's really run focused for me, because that was always something I'd struggled with in the past, was running.
Okay.
As an identity piece, because I just didn't believe I was a runner.
Okay, but the swimming and the biking didn't?
No, because I grew up swimming and then I was a very good cyclist.
So talk to the identity piece with that one, because, our self-image, we can't outperform our self-image. So talk to me a little bit about why that identity piece was so important for you to perform.
Well, I think first off, you have to... Yeah.
When you answer.
Perfect. For running, when I was a young athlete, like I would get out of the water in first place. This was like in high school. And then I would jump on the bike and I'd be in like the first group. And people would be cheering me on, teammates' parents, my parents. And then the run would come and I would just like die. I'd go from like first into near last, middle of the pack.
Yeah, you'd bottom out.
Well, I just like cramp, and it was always so embarrassing to be like, to be lifted up and like, oh, he's doing so well, and then it's just like right at the end,
Yeah.
like lose it all.
Yeah. And when you were in those runs and they were really hard, if you can remember back to when you were in high school, I realize that was a while ago, what were you thinking about when you were running and you started to drop off on the pace and people started passing you? What was going through your mind?
I think it was just embarrassment, shame, being like, not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of running with your head down, kind of like, don't look at me.
Uh-huh. And before a race, when you were getting ready to race and you were, I assume, nervous about racing, nerves are a good thing.
Yep.
Were you thinking about the swimming and biking portion, or were you only thinking about not fucking up the run?
I think the first part, it was about like swimming, because I was still a competitive swimmer. So I was like, everything was focused about swimming. My warm-ups were super extensive and long on swimming. And it's like, because when your identity and you're good at something, you always get first out of the water, always in the front group, that feels good. And I see this a lot with other athletes. They're just continuing to be swimmers, triathletes. They dominate the swim and lead on the bike. And I was in that for many years until I hit a crisis point. It was like, I'm going to become a runner, because I realized it was an identity piece from reading this book. And so I was trying since 2018 till about, this was 2022, this race report, transforming my identity as a triathlete to become a runner, not just a swimmer. And it came at the expense of becoming the best swimmer. Like, my superpower, I had to lessen to focus the energy on becoming a good runner, which is the daily workouts and performing. Yeah.
So do you mean in your training you focus more on a runner? Why do you think that let go of your superpower? Why did you feel like you had to let go of your superpower to identify as a runner?
I think it's the energy, right? Like, when I'm a swimmer, I'm putting a lot of energy into swimming really well every day in practice. And our reservoirs of energy are, they're not boundless, like they're limited. So it was intentionally saying, okay, I'm good enough at swimming. I'm going to swim to not the best of my ability, because I know my best ability is really good, so that I can focus on running.
So the real challenge piece with identifying as a runner was not actually to identify as a runner, it was to let go of being the best in the swimming arena.
I wasn't the best, but I was good.
Yeah. Well, that was what you were striving for, right?
Yes,
It was to be the best, and you had to let go of that.
I think that's one piece. Another piece was comparison, because the other triathletes who I was around who came into the sport all had personal best at 13 something minute 5Ks and very fast 10Ks, sub 30 minutes, and I didn't have those PRs, because in high school I was swimming and I did a little bit of running, but only very short seasons, mostly injured. So that was a big piece of knowing someone's personal best is way faster than mine, and then having to run against them.
And did that get in your head?
Yeah, because then I was like, oh, because they're such a good runner, I need to swim and bike faster than them. So then I would go to races and swim and bike faster than them in an attempt to get a head start, knowing that they were faster.
Yeah.
But then all my energy was wasted on the swim and bike, and of course I became slow at running, and they were faster.
Yeah, and you burnt out.
Yeah, and I burnt out. So
yeah. So in that way, your kind of your identity as a slow runner created a ceiling for your performance from before you'd even started the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized that, at that point, probably like 2018, 19. And I see that still in other athletes who are dominated in the swimming and biking arena. And it wasn't until I had the, trust and confidence in my run.
Yes.
From repetition of training and from training with these athletes who have faster PRs. And I'm then seeing I'm actually beating them in races, because I was patient on the swim, and I was good enough on the swim, and I was good enough on the bike. And in close proximity, that when it came to the run, I was able to run with them.
How hard was learning to be good enough for you?
Very hard.
Why?
Because you keep wanting to be my best, so I'm like, I have to give my best in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of good enough is hard to let go of that control.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I finished a race and it was like, I tried my best on the swim or the bike, and then I tried my best with whatever energy I had left on the run, I could be like, oh, I tried my best. But to let go of trying at the beginning of the race
Mm-hmm.
with a plan of having that energy in the run, that was hard.
So not going out too hot too early, so you had the... Yeah, for sure. And did you find as you matured as an athlete and learnt to trust yourself more as an athlete, that got easier? Or no?
That got easier, and pre-race got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because of the pre-race anxiety early on. I mean, I would be shaking, and I would see my heart rate because I had a heart rate monitor. It was like 100 beats per minute before the race. I'm like, this is way too high.
Mm-hmm. Burning energy from before you
you're just
start.
burning energy, nervous energy. And before some of my best races, like I'm just like hanging out, talking to people. I have that confidence, like I've done everything I can do. There's nothing else to do right now other than wait.
Mm-hmm. And that patience piece got easier as you got older?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Older in the sport. I guess
Yeah.
maybe not older, but as matured in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still see a lot of older athletes, and maybe they don't have that same maturity.
Mm-hmm. And did that coincide with an identity shift outside of the sport, or was that very sport specific, that change?
My identity outside the sport was nothing. There was only...
There was
the
only
sport.
the sport. Mm-hmm. If you could go back and be racing, would you change that?
I don't know if I don't know if I would change that, because I felt like I had to be everything my whole life, the sport, to get to that level. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing with identity, because I never believed I was like talented or had what other athletes had with as far as like talent or natural ability. I felt I had to be all in and sacrifice everything.
Mm-hmm. And is there a world you think that all in could have looked different?
Maybe. I think I would have settled down into one location and like had a community.
Yeah.
They would still all be athletes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like having that consistency and accountability
And support. Mm-hmm.
would have been an amazing thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the one thing I would have been like, that's what I would have changed. And like when I trained with Lionel Sanders and he was in Arizona and he had his family and his community, like that was a really special training time for me. And I got to see what it would have been like.
Yeah. And you think that could have changed your performance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With as far as not making the decisions I made and the longevity in the sport and the happiness.
Yeah.
May I come in with some questions?
Yeah.
You may.
All right, cool. I think it would be helpful too with kind of a timeline. So I'm going to start off with some early day questions, kind of transformation.
We still have a lot to go through.
Okay.
Okay. So we can talk about in this pre-race plan the belief about the future.
Okay.
Because like that I'd never thought of much
Okay.
other than like these little prompts. So belief about the future is, I believe I will perform my best and be victorious, and everything will be okay. I believe my body, mind, and heart are prepared the best I can at Ironman South Africa.
Okay. Did you believe that when you wrote it?
I don't know, because I just repeat these same things and just put in the race.
Mm-hmm.
But when I wrote it, I wanted to believe it.
Yeah, you wanted to believe it, but
Yeah.
did you really believe it?
I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Yeah. It's very
So
hard.
so affirmations has kind of become a cliche thing that a lot of people talk about, but when we talk about, I like to call them power statements rather than affirmations, they're only useful if we actually believe them. So a lot of the time, particularly athletes at the top level, I have them build out a power phrase that they can use during the race, before the race, whatever, to connect them back into their flow state. That's why we have these big pre-race strategies, right? Is to hit a flow state so you can go and perform and not think about it. Because when you think about it, when you reinvest into it, that's when you discoordinate and it becomes a whole issue. But something that I found is that half the time it didn't work. Some people it worked really, really well, and others it didn't. And I couldn't figure it out until maybe about a year and a half ago when an athlete was really honest with me, and he was like, yeah, I can see the benefit of that, and I can see how if I believed that would be super useful, but I actually don't believe it when I say it. I don't believe it's going to be okay if I don't win. I don't believe that's okay. I believe that that's failure. And we kept talking about it, and we kind of defined what failure looked like to him and what success looked like to him. And the place that we managed to get to together was we decided that he was better off having a statement that was a little less absolute.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Because, like, I don't know. Yeah, how do you coach someone to believe that then?
So belief comes from action. So when we have things that align with our belief system, when we have small consistent actions that align with our belief system, we give the brain the proof bank for it to believe it, right? And these beliefs kind of sit alongside our basement beliefs that sit in our default mode network. And if those two things don't line up, you won't sustain the belief. And so a belief like it's all going to be okay if I don't win, and your brain's going, that's funny. No, it's not. That's failure. What it would look like is it would look like starting with a belief between those two things that you can say, yeah, I do believe that. So something between that would be like, I want to win, but the only thing I can do here is my best. So it acknowledges the fact that your ultimate idea of success is winning, but that you will allow your best to be a metric of success. And then you start to build towards that. And when you have races where you come out and then you intentionally celebrate the fact that you did whatever against your PB, or you managed to execute your training plan or your segment success strategy, which is something that I teach all my athletes to do in big races like this, then even if one segment went really badly, if another segment went well, you can celebrate that, and it starts to add to the proof bank that you are the person that can believe that they can go out and perform and their best is good enough. And as you start to build it, then something like that I believe statement, it's going to be okay, that starts to become real and you actually believe it. But it's like, if you're on one end of the spectrum and you use a power statement to pretend you are on the other end of the spectrum, the brain doesn't believe it, and so it's not useful at all. You're better off to take an iterative step, one step forward and another step forward to build the belief. Because if you don't find self-belief, you have to build it. You don't find yourself, you build yourself. It's
not a zero to hero story.
No, it isn't. It is not an overnight success situation, but you are the architect of your self-belief. But no architect just goes, we don't place a brick wall by suddenly all the bricks appearing. We place one, they all appear.
One at a time.
It's one at a time. And it's important that when you're thinking about building your mindset as an elite athlete, we often have this, like, it has to be perfect. Yeah. Like, you're an athlete for a reason, right? You want to win. You're highly competitive. But it's important when you're thinking about your own mindset to scale back and think about small, consistent action in the direction of the identity you want to be aligned with. And when you build yourself in that way, when you become the architect of building your self-belief, it's not about finding the motivation it's not about this something that you leave to chance. It's something that you actively create and build for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I can confidently say I didn't believe that, because the race results, I did not win, and I got 5th, and I did not feel like a winner.
No.
Or victorious.
No.
I was like really pissed off. I did the best. I knew I did the best I could with what I had, with the circumstances, because it turns out I did have COVID and I had a lot of issues with actually peeing. I had to pee like so many times on the bike, and even on the marathon, I was like, why am I like, I've never had this before. And yeah, I mean, I actually, for the first 3 miles in the marathon, I was like walking. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, my body is not working. But I committed to it and finished, and actually finished in 5th place. It was my first Ironman. And so I was proud of how I continued to, put in the effort to finish the race the best I could. But I would not say I was like, I'm proud of that race.
And when you, for your first Ironman, it's not bad. But when you felt like your body was fighting you, do you remember what you were thinking? I realized it was
I was
a while
in
ago.
a lot of pain because I had to pee and I was on the bike. And then the way it works is there's a draft, like a no drafting. So there's about 3 bike lengths in between everyone. But we had 20 guys. So it's a big, long line. I would get near the front. And then I couldn't pedal and pee at the same time. So I'd get up off the saddle. And then my competitors would see that I'm peeing and then attack me. And then I would be at the back of the line by the time I finished peeing. And then I would chase back as hard as I can to get back. And that happened like 3 or 4 times. So by the end of the bike ride, I was destroyed.
You destroyed yourself early.
I was just like, I remember pedaling back the last hour or so alone because I got dropped. Being like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I'll just try to get to the finish line.
And what were you thinking about your body as you needed to pee again and again and again? What did you start to think and feel about your body?
I don't think I felt anything, no.
No? Were you annoyed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah.
were you saying to yourself about yourself, to your body? Like, why the fuck are you doing this? Why?
Yeah, probably that. Just that saying. It was like, why is this happening? And then after the race, I got a COVID test and I was COVID positive. So I realized after the fact, oh, this is one of the things because of that.
Interesting. And you had a lot of digestive issues through your career, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever manage to map a pattern? Like when they would occur? Was it in high stress moments? Was it in when you were thinking about certain things that your digestive issues would start to come up? Because often issues in the body are reflective of our thought patterns.
Yeah.
And I worked with a colleague who was telling me about a patient that she was seeing, and he was a triathlete and he had this issue where every single time he got into the pool, his calves cramped.
Wow, that's terrible.
And
He's probably not a good swimmer.
No. And
because
in training he'd be fine, and then he'd get into competition and every single time his calves would cramp and he couldn't figure out why. And through mapping and through some work, and she ended up in his waterproof headphones while he was in the water, and he was like, my calf started to cramp, and she goes, what were you thinking about just before? And he goes, work. She was like, okay, what about work were you thinking about? And he was thinking about these client deals that he had. So he was a part-time triathlete and he was in corporate as well. And they worked out that every single time his calves cramped, it was because his mind had drifted and he was thinking about work. And so when they implemented a new strategy about what he was going to think about during the race, and they were very intentional about his thought processes, right? Your thought's your choice. First thought might not be, but your second thought always is. When they managed to map a segment success strategy that navigated his thought process through the water, he stopped cramping.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, our thoughts create our reality.
Absolutely. And that's why I ask if you can think back to when you had these kind of issues start to come up digestively. Were you thinking about anything specific? Were you thinking about avoiding failure maybe? Or
I think all of it was about proving my self-worth and winning and having that like pressure to perform, which probably started around 2017, 18.
A lot of tension in the stomach when you're putting pressure on yourself to perform.
Yeah, and I had incredibly tight hip flexors, psoas continually like absolutely tight, and so I'd always be getting adjusted, and nothing really ever worked. But.
Nothing ever held. That's interesting, for sure. Something to think about.
I will say, like, I was mostly in flow state in my training and racing, though.
Yeah, good.
There's a lot of multiple things about belief about my future. My future is primarily determined by what I tell myself about the future. And I kept working on, like, expectations. So it was like, I expect to win.
Okay.
Even though if I didn't, I was, like, continually like, I expect to win. I believe I can win. I believe I can swim with the leaders. I bike with the leaders and be the leader on the run. And so that was like, I was probably just trying to, I don't know, hypnotize myself to be like, I expect to win. I believe I can win.
And going back to that again, was there a point in your career, the races that you won, or even not, were there points in your career where you actually believed that?
Yes, there were. But it was because of the confidence I had in training And when I was training alone, and I was probably training at a very high level, I didn't have that comparison to know how good I was compared to someone like I looked up to or respected in the sport. So I'd never had that confidence going to races when I came from training blocks where I was training alone.
Yeah, because you had nothing to compare yourself against.
But then when I was training with an athlete, Lionel Sanders, in Arizona, like that gave me a lot of confidence I never had before. Because it was like, oh, like I'm confident in my training because there's a comparison, a benchmark.
And was there a level of kind of where that camaraderie helped, where you could talk to someone else who was also in the sport, who understood what it was like to push yourself to that level and why you would do it? Did you find it helpful to have someone else to talk to about that?
Yeah, that was super helpful, just to have someone to share that journey with, because at that level, very few people are competing or even training at that level.
And do you think it would still be worthwhile to train with other triathletes even if they were at a lower level to you?
I did, and it was more just to have someone to hang out with outside of the sport, who understood you and were similar joys of the sport. And
So people that are racing professionally or are wanting to race professionally in the sport, from all of your experience and now the unique opportunity you have to reflect on it and now working with athletes yourself, kind of around that community piece, or what would you suggest to them, or what advice would you give in terms of prepping your environment, your training environment, to optimize your ability to perform?
That's a great question. I think the environment is one of the biggest factors you can change with regards to performance. And when I was in Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, the environment was not conducive to training. Like, people were not, everyone was working 9 to 5. There was no one at the rec centers. So there was not a culture environment that was conducive to like training, because I felt out of place. I felt I didn't belong. And so that's what brought me out to Colorado, was just being with like-minded people and to be like, oh, I'm normal because this is a normal thing to do. Like in Boulder, in your, a Monday or a Wednesday at noon, like there's a bunch of people swimming at the pool and biking and running.
Yeah.
And so if my advice to anyone who's really trying to make it is go to where other people are. Maybe that's Girona, Spain, where some of the best cyclists and triathletes are training, just because your environment is conducive to high performance. Yeah,
your environment dictates a lot of your reality, for sure.
So we talked about the future. This is my statement of what it means to be a winner. Okay. Right? Like, so I focused on
you define
winning.
Success.
And so this is, what does it mean to be a winner in Ironman South Africa? To be put together the best race I'm capable of on the day, to be aggressive and fight for my position at the start, get out as quickly as I can in through the first buoy, to come in the top 2 to 3 out of the water, to get in front 2 to 4 guys on the bike and try to manage the effort, and execute a run for the win or podium or every single place. I believe I'm capable of winning or being on the podium. If there are a few guys running faster than me, I'm going to give everything I have, then I'm a winner.
Okay. So you gave yourself it looks like being on the podium, but also you acknowledged where you had previously struggled and gave yourself the ability to still be a winner, even if you weren't
winning. Yeah. Like I had to, there was like, I have to give everything I have to try. But it's hard because like, I still wouldn't feel like a winner if I didn't win.
No. Was there a way that you could feel successful even if you didn't win?
I don't think I even felt successful when I won. So no.
So let's talk to that. When you didn't feel successful when you won. So really you're talking about all these things about being a winner, and it was what really, really mattered to you. But then you got there and it felt like nothing. Why do you think that was?
Because I was comparison, because I would finish a race, I would win and be like, oh, so-and-so wasn't there. It wasn't the course record. It wasn't like, there's just endless things to go through to be like, it doesn't count, or it was good stepping stone, but now it's like ready for the next race.
And why do you think you never let yourself fully feel success? And how do you think it affected your performance in the long run?
Why did I never? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what success would feel like.
Mm-hmm. Have you felt success in other areas of your life?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a hugely common thing, right? And this is something I spoke to someone else the other day, was that a lot of high performers actually fear success more than they fear failure. And they fear the success because once they get to the success and they feel the success, they're worried that, one, their motivation will diminish because they've been avoiding failing for so long that when they actually manage to avoid failure, they're like, well, what do I do? And or that they're going to get to the top and then they have to hold it. And then every race, they're worried that every race after that, if you become successful, if they feel the success and really truly celebrate that they succeeded or won something, that the failure after the fact, everything will feel like a failure because you don't get the same high. And so a lot of high performers, and this is not just athletes, this is high performing execs, high performing teams, they move the bar every single time they hit a milestone, and rather than being excited about that, it's a stepping stone to higher success.
To the higher success.
But when they don't win, it's not the same. They don't see it as a stepping stone to their future success. They see it as a failure. And so this massively affects your mental capacity and your capacity to keep performing in the sport, because nothing's ever a success. You only ever really feel failure. Yeah. Even when you do succeed.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think just growing up is in my swim team, I had a coach once. I was like 13. He called me out in front of the whole group. He called me Charmin Ultra because I was so soft. That's the toilet paper brand. and other experiences like that. Another swim coach would like pull me and a couple of guys out of the water, go into like the storage room. And he's like, untie your suits. Look down there, because I don't see any balls. It's like calling us out because like a girl was beating us in practice.
Okay.
But like that kind of underdog story of like, okay, you just have to work harder. You're the underdog, and you got to do more and suffer more than the others to be successful.
Was that quite isolating?
Yeah, I was pretty isolated. In my career
for a long time. And so when you did reach the top, do you wonder if maybe that success didn't feel like success because did you have anyone to turn to and talk to that?
I had some, I was close with my family and had some friends. I had people to talk with. But really like it would be a moment of, oh, I feel great. But then it would very quickly, even that evening, turn to, okay, what's next? What's the next training? What's the next race? Like I got to get ready for the next training workout.
So much to think on.
So then that was all the mindset work for my pre-race. Then I got very specific. Okay, race day. What does race day look like? Okay, I'm going to wake up at 3:45 a.m., have breakfast, tea or coffee, roll out, activate. And at 5 to 5:15 a.m., I'm going to walk to transition, run special needs bottle. Transition is open from 5 to 6:15. So there's like information, so I just know it's all there. Reminders, pump tires, 80 PSI, 5:55 to 6:10, warm up, run, put on wetsuit, walk to race start, 6:15, drink Red Bull, race start, 6:30. So I had for me, it's always helpful. I write out exactly what the next day and the morning is going to look like. Yeah. So I just follow. I'm like, okay, I thought about it. This is what I'm going to do. I just follow the plan. And then it's a fantastic high performance strategy is to take out all the decision making. You want to remove as much cognitive fatigue as you can, and by removing decisions, you massively maximize what you're capable of doing. Because if you think about a race or an endurance race, it's kind of ultra endurance, like an Ironman, the fatigue is almost as high in the mind as it is in the body. You have to push yourself past your limits, where your brain will stop before your body does. Your brain will be like, you can't do this. And almost everyone talks about that point in the race, and everyone's point is different, that they get to that stage where they're hurting, because you will be. Maybe your plan's not going quite right, and if you are already highly cognitively loaded because you've made all your decisions on race morning of what am I going to eat for breakfast and
when am I doing the things that I need to do, and should I got to organize this, and this person needs to be at this place for. You've used so much of your cognitive energy already, and to perform at that highest level, you need to have that plan where you take out all of your decisions, and actually even better if you can do so for the full 48 hours beforehand. If you can remove all the decision making and get laser focused during the whole lead up, including your pre-race routine, your warm up, your activation, to get 100% into that flow state of exactly what am I achieving, your race outcome is so different, even if your physical preparation is exactly the same.
And I've seen athletes who've transcended their level of performance all the time on race day. And there's something they have. They're like, they know, I know their training isn't to the level, and then they show up on race day and just perform at another level. And I never had that, because I pushed myself before the race as much as possible. So I was almost always overtrained or overdone by the time I got to the race. There wasn't anything else to give. It was just that level of what I
You were
had.
at 100% all the time.
Yeah.
Do you think that
system.
super overloaded in your nervous system? Something that's really common is that athletes don't think about rest as part of the grind.
Yeah.
It's the reward for the grind, and it's really, really important that you think about it as part of the grind, not only because it replenishes all the reserves in the muscles from the intramuscular glycogen kind of perspective, intramuscular triglycerides, all that kind of stuff. Super, super important. Most athletes know about that. But also from the cognitive perspective, to be ready to give something extra on race day. It's super, super important. Do you think that affected your performance in the long run, that you trained so hard that you kind of fried your nervous system in that sense?
Yes, I 100% did that. And only later in my career did I actually rest. Before another race, before Kona 2022, I had just done this PTO US Open, won that race, and then there was a 2-week turnaround before the Ironman World Championship. So going over double that distance, that's when I won the biggest race of my life, and then I was immediately like disqualifying it, because it was like, oh, these guys in the top 10, like they weren't even at the race, doesn't count. Like, yeah, it's good, but really, even at across the finish line, in the interview, I was like, yeah, I'm really just focused on Kona, the World Championships. Like, it was just immediately to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because I gave that. If I won the World Championships, then I would be successful. And so it reflected my training. Like, a few days after the PTO US Open, I was in Texas, did this crazy workout. It was like 9x2K running.
Wow.
And did it all at 3:15 per K pace.
Wow. Did you destroy yourself?
No, I felt amazing. And then we did like massive bike rides, amazing swims, flew to Kona like a good 10 days before the race. And then I was doing these 4-hour bike rides on the course at my best power outputs, 280, 290 watts.
Wow.
And then doing these 2-hour runoffs to bike.
Insane.
At 4 minutes, 3:50.
Did you taper at all?
Well, that was a week before the race. I did that giant brick workout, 4-hour ride, 2-hour run, and it was insane. And then I was bedridden. I had so much back pain. I couldn't get out of bed. I pretty much was bed rest for a week before the race.
That's one way to taper.
I felt terrible.
Yeah. And so that nervous system piece, right? Because, and now as a breathwork coach, that the body has one primary goal, and it's to keep itself safe. And so when you're pushing yourself outside your limits over and over and over again as an elite athlete, that kind of rest piece and priming the nervous system before you even think about doing all of your pre-ride activations, pre-race activations, to allow your body to let yourself push to 100%. Do you think that there might have been reserves that you couldn't tap into because you were training so hard and your nervous system was so fried?
Yeah, 100%. My nervous system was fried, and on many of my races, I've done over 150 career races, that I just had nothing to give. It was just like I showed up, I had this one level. I was just kind of flatlined. I was like in this gray area. I couldn't push any faster because there was nothing. It was just like pulling me, someone pulling me back. And now I can look as like, wow, the nervous system is just, if there's a battery, you look at like a battery of the nervous system, I'm just like halfway.
Yeah.
You know.
And everyone kind of talks about nervous system work as super fluffy, right? But now can you appreciate how much the nervous system affects your ability to perform? Like, your nervous system is your performance enhancer, optimizing your nervous system through the power of your breath, through the power, like your breath is like the remote control of your nervous system, right? And it's the thing that you have control of. And I know that you know that because I know that you do amazing work with that. And so how would you explain to kind of elite athletes the power of utilizing their nervous system or working with their nervous system as a performance enhancer? Because a lot of people think it's for healing, it's to sing Kumbaya around a circle holding hands, and they don't.
The vagus nerve and all this
language
around.
And everyone's like, "Oh, that's a load of bollocks. It's not gonna work for me at this level. Like, I'm a high performance athlete." How can you explain and to somebody who might be listening that is in that professional space why the nervous system optimization is the missing link piece for their performance?
The nervous system, I mean, when you got to look at it as an athlete and you're pushing your body, every time you are, at threshold and above threshold, pushing VO2 max, you are really tapping into the sympathetic nervous system.
Absolutely.
So heart rate's going up, your breathing rate is going up, and now if you are mouth breathing at these higher intensities, you are really expelling a lot of carbon dioxide, another big stressor in the nervous system. And most of the people who are training 2 to 3 times a day are also heavily relying on caffeine and nicotine and other stimulants because they're also, if they're working or not working, if they're professionals, like, your body's dead.
Your nervous system's
most
shot.
days, it takes me hours to wake up to like feel good after a couple cups of coffee, and then I work out, and then I only feel good when I work out. The rest of the day I don't feel good. And so that's part of it too. It's like, oh, I feel good when I work out, so I work out. But that's actually an issue of the nervous system being overly tapped. Yeah. And then when we bring in breath work, the Wim Hof, the hyperventilation, all this crazy stuff where people are crying and moving all around, that's not really necessarily for the athletes, because over breathing, they already are during training, is just another sympathetic drive, bringing their state of arousal even higher. Yeah. And for most athletes, working on them is working on slowing the breath down, increasing CO2 levels in the body, which pulls their sympathetic nervous system back into parasympathetic, and back into feeling safe, back into feeling grounded. And those athletes that I get to just get their breath slower and calmer and doing breath holds, their recovery improves, their pain reduces, inflammation decreases, and so
heart rate range increases.
Yeah, heart rate. So working with athletes, they got to understand how the breath impacts their nervous system and how to regulate their nervous system is really the key, is slowing down.
Absolutely, and that slowing down piece, I think a lot of high performance athletes that I work with are like, well, I can't slow down because if I slow down, I'll stop and I won't be able to get going again. And it's helping them understand that piece of when you have your nervous system right, you recover faster. You don't actually have to break as long, and the rest is more intentional. And so there's also this piece of like understanding this. There's kind of 2 parts of the nervous system. You've got your central nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord, and your peripheral nervous system, which is your enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system in your gut. It's the peripheral nerves all throughout your body that are stimulated kind of when you're doing high intensity exercise. And this piece of kind of breath work and mindset coaching kind of working together with top-down control and bottom-up control to kind of create an optimal environment for high performance. Can you talk to how those 2 things kind of combine and are both needed from the bottom-up perspective and the top-down perspective to create mental fortitude and physical fortitude that is suitable for high-performance environments? Yeah,
what's the top-down?
Top-down is mental performance work, so that's like the cortical control. That's your belief, the way that you prime your identity statements. Your bottom-up is the safety of your nervous system, your ability to kind of optimize your sympathetic parasympathetic balance?
So, I mean, for most athletes, at the triathlete level at least, and even in any domain, they're very smart and intellectual people.
Yes.
So they understand science and the body and have a really good intuition on their body. So part of that is they know what to do, but they don't do it.
Yes.
So that's where the mind is actually like getting in the way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I see that all the time again. It's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, and the science says I need to do this. And they're doing too much.
Yes.
And the safety piece is, at least I can speak from my experience, is like I perform and I push myself in my body because it's really fear-based. It's
Absolutely.
Like fear that I'm not enough, fear that, I don't belong. And I see this a lot in triathlon because technically triathletes, they never belonged as swimmers because they were never the best swimmers. They never belonged as cyclists, and they never belonged as runners, because if they belonged as those three, they would be a swimmer or a cyclist or a runner.
Yeah.
And so our identity as a sport is coming from a place of just not belonging.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's so much of just trying to belong to the right triathlon team and group. And I see these benchmarks in Ironmans. I was like, oh, I got to break 10 hours. I'm a 10-hour club. I got to break 9 hours. I got to break 8 hours. And each of those are these exclusive clubs that you feel like you belong, all trying to solve the issue that you are worthy of, breathing and taking up space.
Yeah, and so kind of creating that from the get-go with the mindset work and the breath work combined, and creating that strong system where you're as mentally fit as you're physically fit, that changes the game, right?
Yeah, I feel like if I came from a place and other athletes came from a place where we felt we belonged in our bodies and as we are, and we felt safe and we felt enough, that scared me as an athlete, because then I would lose my motivation, I would lose my drive, I would lose my, I always joked with my parents. I was like, well, all these idols of mine, Lance Armstrong and Michael Phelps, like they came from broken families, like divorced, really hardships at a young age. And I was like, Mom, like Dad, like you got to make life hard so I can have that drive. Now I look back, I'm like, man, that's really messed up to say.
Yeah.
but
at the time.
But at the time, right, like that's my fuel.
Yeah.
And if I took that fuel away, then am I going to, what am I going to do in the sport?
Yeah. And what do you think it might have looked like to perform from a place of kind of connection and meaning rather than a place of avoiding or fear? Do you think that would have been a positive change in the way that you performed?
I think it would have been a great change. I mean, I was I was working with a band, Arlie, and my buddy from high school, who's the leader of that band, right before this performance 2 nights ago, and we were talking about, and it was doing some breath work and visualization of like, what does it look like coming from a place of not trying to, perform to impress or perform to, get people to like you so that your business goes well. What would it look like to just perform, knowing that they're here, they're already here because they trust you and like you? What would it look like just to perform as celebration? And he went out on stage and he had this energy of just like,
it was amazing,
just
right?
having an amazing time, because he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't trying to get anything out of this other than just celebrate. And I think that was the missing piece for me, was if I just looked at training and racing as I get to do this because my body is amazing and it can perform at such a high level.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's way more inspiring to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like he went out and had an amazing performance, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, people think that that's exclusive to an exec getting on the stage, sharing about what they care about, or business owner, but it's just as important for athletes, right? It's just a lot less common to perform out of a place of celebration than fear, right?
Yeah, way less common. And this example today was leaving the gym, and my buddy's a chiropractor at this gym. So I was talking to him, and he just did Ironman Wisconsin. And he's like, I was like, how'd it go? And he's like, oh, well, it was like, some things I was proud of. And had a great time and some I weren't. And I was like, oh, well, like what weren't you proud of? And he's like, oh, the time. The time. I was like, well, like, isn't that subjective? Because, every year it's a different temperature, different race, like, different crowd.
Absolutely.
And he was still caught up. I was like, what would it mean to be like beating your PR? And he's like, wow, that was like, I just wanted to, beat the 10 hours. But he was proud of his effort.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, like, that's again being just stuck into that mindset of comparing ourselves to these boxes that don't matter. Because if you and he did it with his brother, and so he's actually really stoked that his brother did it for the first time, and he was so happy just to finish. I was like, what would it be like to just be happy just to finish?
Yeah.
And don't let this objective time goal or result rob you of just the pure joy of doing it.
Yeah, of doing something pretty incredible. Most people don't ever.
And I said, I was like, look, I
I
talked to 99% of the people out in the world, and just tell them you did an Ironman. They're going to be like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And if you're like, well, it wasn't under, 10 hours, they're like, what doesn't matter? You could tell them you did it in 14 hours. They'd still think you're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just this world of comparison that we live in, and it robs us of our joy and of living and competing.
And I think the further we get up, it's very easy to forget where you came from and forget that, once you start breaking the 10 hours, the 9 hours, the 8 hours, you forget that once upon a time, breaking the 10 hours was the goal.
Yeah.
And that even being able to get out and run. And I think a lot of athletes that experience big injuries are actually super, super lucky. And most people would say, well, what on earth do you mean by that? But it gives them the unique perspective of what it feels like to go back to square one and not be able to do the thing. And a lot of those athletes you talk to, and once they get over kind of the identity crisis of like, I'm not performing the way I used to, or whatever, once they start to reclimb the ranks, they do so with the mental fortitude of someone who's run a sub 8 or a sub 9, but they're going through, and it starts to feel different when they get to appreciate that. And I think that's a piece that a lot of athletes can benefit from without having to be injured in the first place, is being reminded of their roots and coming back to their roots and being able to visualize their success and where they want to go, while holding on to how proud a younger version or more amateur version of them in that sport would be. And so was that something that you ever thought about as you climbed the ranks, was the fact that once upon a time you were?
No, never. I don't even, the whole concept of appreciation, gratitude, being proud, like I just never felt those, or like never truly, I could say like, oh, I'm really grateful for that, but I didn't have any feelings. Like there's a dissociation of
between the body and the mind,
thinking of like, oh, I can think these things, but I can't feel them.
And breathwork gives you the ability to actually feel the success, right?
Breathwork really helped, but I mean, that gave me the ability to be in my body and feel things, but I also had to learn a vocabulary of feelings, which I never had. I mean, I'm 31, and I would say last year was the first year I ever said and meant that like I was proud of who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was never something that was a part of my life.
No.
And same thing with like the feeling of appreciating just, sitting by the beach and water lapping, like, or being able to swim. I didn't feel that, or it wasn't intentionally or conscious of appreciating things every day. It was always focused on lack and, okay, what can I do today to become better? And that's actually still focused on lack, because I'm focused on where I'm at right now, and it's not where I want to be.
For sure.
And that was everyday focus.
How valuable do you think it would have been during your racing career to have somebody in your corner, a mental performance coach, a breathwork coach, both, that was able to pull you into the state of feeling and pull you into the state? Because a lot of athletes avoid the feeling. They think it's going to reduce their performance, right? How valuable do you think it would have been to have someone in your corner that could pull you into that acknowledgement that you get to do this celebration piece, the kind of reminder of where you'd come from and where you wanted to go? How valuable do you think it would have been to have someone, because it's very hard to do that when you're on your own, right? And a lot of athletes try to go at it on their own. How valuable do you think it would have been to have someone on your team to help you do that?
I think at some point it would be valuable. I don't think from the beginning, because I got to where I was because of that drive.
Yeah.
And like, I was not a super athlete growing up. I was okay. It was a 16-minute 5K. I swam at states. Like, would never podium, never winning all the races. So I've definitely outperformed my talent and built through hard work and dedication. And that came at the expense of the quality of life that other people got to do. And like that drive came from the brokenness. But at some point, I think it would have been helpful to appreciate how much where I came from. Because it's about the VO2 max and your mitochondria and your cells and development. You have to put in the work.
Absolutely.
And so it's hard to say. I mean, if I was like super happy and content and enough where I was, it would be easier for me to walk away from the sport because there's other things in life. But for me, there was nothing else in life. And so it's easy to make that decision to stay in the sport. I saw a lot of people leave. They came in a year, 2 years. They're like, no, it's not worth the effort. It's not worth the sacrifice for the other things in life. And so from that perspective, I don't know.
What do you think it would have looked like if you had someone in your life to show you how to sacrifice from a different place, to still put in the hard work, to still have the drive, to still create the sacrifices and to put everything into the sport, but from a different place, so that when you did win, it felt successful.
Yeah,
and it still felt successful, but you could keep pushing for more.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Of like coming from a place of abundance and being in an environment, right? I think that's where the environment comes. If you did find that
person helps build that environment too,
but then
right?
You'd have to be in an environment where you're surrounded by like-minded people to continue to push each other.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's where a lot of athletes stumble when it comes to investing in breathwork or investing in a mental performance coach. They're worried it's going to take the drive, and that's why I questioned you, and it's interesting that you gave that answer, because it's clear that there's still some of that athlete mindset in you that's like, but I need the pain. And what people don't understand, I think, that I think is really important for athletes to understand with mental performance coaching, is it's not about taking away. It's not about feeling good all the time. In fact, that's never going to be the goal. Feeling good emotions all the time isn't the goal. It's to feel the full spectrum of emotions and use every single one as a driver. So rather than just having the one emotion to drive from, the one place of lack or scarcity to drive from, you have that piece that's going to drive you, and you also have the celebration to pull you up. We talk a lot about it in physical training, right? We're building the aerobic base. Yeah. You push from the bottom by building your zone 2. You do that kind of that lower intensity, longer distance kind of running, and then you kind of pull that really high intensity to pull the whole thing up. It's the same thing from mental performance. And what people don't understand about mental fitness and mental performance and mental fortitude is it takes just as much training as physical performance. And it's not about removing the pain. It's about using every single piece to push it up and pull it up. Yeah. And so that performance feels more meaningful and more powerful. And you feel powerful by driving from your place of the things you want to move away from and the things you want to drive for, as well as the kind of that abundant piece of where you get to go and your body gets to do it. Yeah. And I think a lot of athletes, I'm really glad you gave that answer, because it's the block that I have to get through with most athletes, is they go, I don't want to invest in this because you're gonna ruin my motivation. Because if I'm not afraid of failing, then why would I perform? If there's more to it, then, or I can acknowledge that there's more to life, why on earth would I push myself to my breaking point every day, all day, every day? And it's you still do it and you still push yourself to your breaking point, but it just feels different and you feel more powerful in it. And we're talking about that nervous system piece and that safety piece when you get to still drive from these emotions. And it's not about taking these lack of emotions away necessarily. It's about building on top of it and having something else to drive for as well. We're not going to remove all of the limiting beliefs, whatever. Those are super important.
Just acknowledging them.
It's acknowledging them and making sure they're not the thing that stops you, because just as much as they're the thing that drives you, they're also the thing that stops you. They're the things that push you to overtrain, to overdrive, to put your nervous system into a place of lack of safety, so you miss the top 15%, because your body subconsciously, your brain subconsciously is just trying to keep you safe, because it only really cares about safety and keeping you alive, right? And so when you can have the duality, you push from both sides. It's not subtraction, it's addition. People think about mental performance as subtraction, and it's not. And so I'm really glad you gave that answer.
So I still got some work to do.
Yeah, we all do, don't we? Though, like but that's
Yeah.
the piece, right? And that's why mental performance work and breath work, and I often say you got to use them together, because for super intelligent people, and most people that are at high performance are quite intelligent, whether in sometimes kind of more intellectually, sometimes more kind of in that kinesthetic motor intelligence, but they're very skilled in some intellectual way. And so you have to have the bottom up to utilize the top down, right? Because if you're in that sympathetic drive, we have a thing called an amygdala in the limbic system. And when your limbic system, this is activated in your sympathetic response, and it was originally developed because, we needed to know that if a tiger was rustling in the grass to get the fuck away so we didn't die, right? And so when we're in this place of overtraining, or we're driving from a place of lack and we're really stressed all the time, and people often say, I need to be stressed, I need to be stressed, I need to be busy to get things done, right? That's in the executive space. When we drive from that place, the amygdala is super, super active, and what that does is it deactivates the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is this big bit in the front of your brain, and it controls all of your cognitive decisions. And so your decision making is slower, your reaction times are slower, all of these things from a performance perspective, your focus is worse, your coordination is worse. And so people are like, I'm gonna lose my edge. No, you need to have all these things, but you need to make sure that they're not the things controlling you, because when you have access to your prefrontal cortex, you can make the decisions, you can make the split choices, you don't have as much decision fatigue. You were talking earlier about how we have only a certain amount of energy in reserve, right? If you're using so much of it from a place of limit, and that's all subconscious, 90% of our thoughts are subconscious, then we don't have any control.
Yeah.
And you lose all the control of your performance. It's not about removing that, it's about understanding it to get control, right? When you get to understand that you don't have to believe every thought you have, and you get to control the first thought you can't control, but as I said earlier, the second thought you always can. And you can take that thought and go, that's not helpful, I'm going to think this instead. Yeah. And the more you do that, you rewire your brain, and you can rewire it for performance. And you can do that through breathwork, through visualization, when you use both sides, the bottom up and the top down, and you can actually utilize the top down because you've created safety in the nervous system. Yeah. Your level of performance skyrockets. And it's why it's really important to be so aware of where you're driving from, because when you drive from that place of limit, when you drive from that place of stress and high cortisol, while you need a sympathetic response, you're absolutely right. You have to have that.
Recovering and coming down.
Yes.
And it's in the coming down that's important to recover and get ready for another higher performance.
Absolutely. And people think that a mental performance coach is going to sit there and go, well, you get to do it and you don't need to. No, you're highly competitive. That's a fantastic thing. That's always something we're going to feed. But when you become competitive from a different place, you get to perform from a different place, and you perform better.
Yeah. And you probably feel better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Success actually feels like success, which is cool.
Well, thank you, Charlotte. That was a pleasure talking about all things mental performance, high performance.
Thank you for having me.
Deep diving into my own traumas as an athlete.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
And I think future, let's talk about high performance and ADHD.
Yes, let's.
And how breathwork is part of that piece.
Breathwork is the piece. Yeah. Mental performance work is amazing, so is visualization. Breathwork is the remote control of the nervous system. When you put the two of them together, it is unstoppable. Let's absolutely talk about it. And thank you for your vulnerability. It's great.
All right.
Amazing.
Thank you for yours.